Well, the last time I spoke to you, I just finished my PGCE course and I qualified as a history teacher. And I applied for and got a job at William Gladstone School in Brent, which is a mixed, was a mixed secondary school. I think the pupils have since burnt it to the ground, and well, I wouldn't argue with their judgment on that actually, but anyway, I taught there for a term and then I left. But I'll come back to that, why I left, why I quit later. But in the meantime, I taught there for a term and was I any good? No, not really. I don't think I was very good. But I think given it more time, I would have got better. I mean, the first term in the first year is the hardest. I think you've got to learn all the children's names and their needs, and also in the second year you're basically going through the same thing that you went through the first year. You're teaching the same lessons. You've got a stock of knowledge and practice and so on. But so I think I would have improved, but. My teaching friends tell me that no, I probably would have got worse, and maybe that's true as well. I don't know. It certainly was an eye opener anyway, and it was a valuable experience. But it's a very, very hard job. Yes, it's a very hard job, and you've got to be good at admin paperwork, and you've also got to be good at presentation skills. You know, you've got to be confident, competent, and but it's difficult to juggle all those balls. I mean, I could write a decent essay if I'd given some time to think about it and rehearse about it and so on. I could do that, but when you're teaching, you've got to do it over and over and over again. I mean, in a typical teaching day, you start off with a few minutes with your class, because I was a class teacher or a form teacher, and you have to take a register and do a bit of admin work, and then they go out, and then the morning starts. You get another class comes in. They're all hyperactive, of course, because they're young, and they probably some of them have had a bowl full of sugar for breakfast, so they're on a sugar rush, and the other half are malnourished and haven't had any food at all, so they're on a kind of different kind of they have a different kind of problem, and they really don't want to be there. They're more interested in, I don't know, whatever young people are interested in. You know, what was on TV last night, what they think of each other, and they come into your class, and you've got to settle them down. You've got to memorise their names as well, and then you've got to, I don't know, keep their interest going for like half an hour or so at least, and then they go, and then another lot come in. They're just as excited, and you know, they're just that, and you got to do it all over again, and then you get a 20-minute break, which is just about time to have a slash and drink a cup of tea if you're lucky, and then you get another lot, and then 40 minutes later you get another lot, and then it's lunchtime, and if you're lucky and you haven't got a load of things to do, you could just about grab a bit of junk food and maybe a cup of tea and sit down. But you've got to go back to the classroom soon and clean the board and prepare things for the next lot, and then the next lot come in, and then the next lot. If you're, on a good day, you get a free period to do a bit of marking and a bit of admin work, but generally speaking, it could be 7 times a day you get a different class of different people, and they come in. I mean, how can you prepare 7 40-minute worthwhile lessons at different age groups, different ability levels every day? And this goes on 5 days a week. Now, a lot of people say, well, teachers they only work sort of like 9 till 3:30 when the kids go out or something. And then they have these great long holidays, and they have every weekend off. Oh, I wish I was a teacher. It's not like that at all. I mean, you've got. I was often in school until 7 o'clock in the evening, marking books. I got to know the cleaners because I was there, sort of marking the books, marking the homework. You've got to give these kids homework to do, and if you're lucky, some of them come back and actually do it. And you've got to sort of read what they've written to give a fair judgment of it. And as if that's another thing. As if it wasn't bad enough and difficult enough, national curriculum had just come about. So you had these ludicrous notions like attainment targets, and some idiots in the Conservative Party, which were then the government, decided that when you're marking history, it's very important to award marks for grammar and punctuation and spelling. You could deduct marks. For Christ's sake, it's history. It's not English. And even if it is English, it wouldn't help to just mark people down for effort. And if you're lucky, the kids will do something and give you a homework, and you've got to read it and judge it, and to sort of to give you an example, you might have a kid whose second language is English, their first language is something else, like some I don't know, some foreign language, and but they've written a nice long essay about the subject that you were trying to teach them, and that they've clearly understood, and they have tremendous insight into what you're teaching, and you're supposed to mark them down because they've spelt something wrong or got the grammar slightly wrong. Who cares? I mean, the important thing is they understand what you're trying to teach them. I mean, and you're not marking. It's not a competition. You're not marking people down just as a sort of punishment. The idea is that you tell them, people, you can point out to people that they've made a mistake, but they've tried. They've made an effort. You're not punishing them for making an effort. You're pointing out to them how they could perhaps do something better. Anyway, so I wasn't happy with what I was teaching. I wasn't happy with the way I was having to teach it, and I was certainly struggling with the whole concept of the wave of children that come into your classroom. But I think with time I would have got better, because first of all, you get to know them, you get to know their names, and there are also things that I was happy about, and some lessons went really well, and I don't know, I mean, I'll give you, for example, when it was announced at the assembly that I would be leaving the following term, there was an audible moan of disappointment. And after the assembly, some children came up, some some children in my class came up to me and said, "Oh, sir, is it true you're leaving? Is it true?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm afraid so." They said, "Oh, we liked you." I said, "Well, if only I'd known that, I might have made a different decision." But I liked them too. I mean, even the difficult ones. You know, the kids. They're nice. They're lovable. They're human beings. But anyway, the die was cast, and I had decided to leave. And the reason I left really was I was at a sort of crossroads. Really, I could either go down the path less travelled, or I could go down the familiar route. And I chose to go down the familiar route and go back to what I knew and what I felt comfortable with, which was driving a cab. And I was under a lot of pressure at the time. I mean, my father had recently died, and having, well, I was lucky enough up to that point to have two functioning parents. They kind of looked after each other. They provided a home from home, a place I could always go to with my young family and stay and be comfortable and be at home and enjoy mum's cooking and enjoy a glass of wine with my dad and so on. And then he went, and all of a sudden, from being a sort of refuge, it became the opposite, a liability. I mean, mum really didn't cope very well being on her own. She was frightened to be on her own, and she didn't like it. She didn't like being stuck out in their cottage. It wasn't in the country, it was in a small village, on the edge of a small village, but mum felt isolated, and she would have liked to have been in the centre of a town, really. Probably the town that I was in and my sister was in, but yeah, so I went from being a huge asset to being a huge problem and liability. I had to go up to see mum a lot, and I had to take care of her and look after I don't know. Anyway, I was under a lot of pressure, and it was just doing me in. I couldn't handle the pressure, and so I chose to go back to what I knew and what I was comfortable with, which I couldn't really get. I hadn't really given up altogether anyway. I went back to driving a cab, and I tried at a later time to go back to teaching, and I mean, under the illusion that teaching little children would be easy, but actually, if anything, it's harder. They're even more chaotic and more difficult to reach. I mean, anyway, I gave it a try, but I'm not cut out. I wasn't cut out to be a teacher. Like I say, I had, there are some things I'd like to be able to convey to young people. I'd like to be, I like it in theory, but the practice of it, I mean, giving one lesson a day would be about, I'd feel comfortable with that, but 7? No. It's a pointless and impossible task, in my opinion. Oh yes, I've just remembered something which really used to bother me about this school and teaching in it, and that was the head teacher. She had this habit of walking around the school and picking on people for doing things like running in the corridor. Stop running! right? Or why aren't you wearing a proper school uniform? That sort of thing. But also, one of the disconcerting things that she used to do was, well, the classroom had a glass wall between it and the corridor, and sometimes in passing, you'd see her looking in the window. She'd be looking in the window, and then she'd burst into your room in the middle of a lesson, completely disregarding you, undermining your authority, and making you look like a total nobody, and go straight up to some child and say, "Why aren't you wearing your tie?" Or, "Why are you wearing a hat?" You know, I think there is some argument that if you know, I mean, her philosophy was to look after the little things, I suppose, in the hope that they wouldn't develop into big things. Like, you keep control of the little things. It's the sort of broken window theory of discipline, right? But it really didn't help very much, and I found it very irritating because personally I don't care what the children are wearing. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, they can be wearing a bin bag. I don't. It doesn't matter because they're just trying to draw attention to themselves. They're just trying to establish their personality. They're, you know, and fair enough, you've got to take them on their own terms, I think, anyway. And what you do is you win the trust first, and then their respect. So, and you don't do it by imposing stupid rules about hats and ties. Anyway, I'm sure I could go on and tell you a lot more about my experience of teaching, but that's about it, really. That's all I can take for the time being. I'm finding it awfully distracting, this genocide that's going on, and all the climate change and World War III and end of the world stuff. Really, it's distracting me from the important things of enjoying life and telling my own story. But there you go. Anyway, I'll see you later. Bye.